Hello and welcome to the Gaming Chronicles. Today we will be doing a character review of all 30 playable characters in Shining Force 2. And I say playable, of course, because there is that one Force member in Sir Astral who joins us as an advisor, and not a very good advisor at that, who is not playable. So we'll be talking about all 30 members who are playable on the battlefield. The question is, how likely are they to appear on the battlefield? Well, let's find out. Similar to the popularized tier lists, each character will be given their individual rating based off of a system that I've completely made up, just based on what I feel is suitable for the game and its characters. So let's go ahead and get into it so that we even know what I'm talking about. So first of all, what are the factors that I am considering for most of these characters, for pretty much all the characters? So there's their, of course, offensive power, their survivability, mobility, rate of improvement, and X factors. Now, compared to Shining Force 1, there are less X factors I've seen, except for the timing of joining. That's probably the biggest one. And rate of improvement is much more reliable in Shining Force 2. You can predict how a character is going to end up based off of the rate of improvement, much better than in Shining Force 1. Arthur, of course, from Shining Force 1 being a prime example of that. And then, of course, our offensive power, attack and agility being very important because of initiative, essentially. And mobility is important because if you fall behind, then you get left behind, essentially. And for all characters who are not promoted, I take all of my characters to level 28 to promote them because it is a fairly easy level to take them to prior to promotion. It's not too grindy, and it doesn't take a lot of extra investment to get a high return on that investment when it comes to those characters later on in the game. And then on the left side here is my made-up tier list of we'll have Seriously Broken, Wrecking Machine, Main Force, Bench Strength, Nice to Try, and Disappointment. And then the way I compose my force is typically as goes. So our leader, Bowie, which I named Darian in my playthrough, typically we'll have 2 to 3 healers. It depends what difficulty I'm playing it on. If I'm playing it on normal, I might just have 1 healer. If I'm playing it on super though, I might have 2 or 3. In my playthrough that I chronicled, I had Sarah, Freja, and Karna all in the force at one time. And while you don't need 3 healers, it's always an option. And then 4 melee fighters is typically what I have, and then typically 2 centaurs or offensive spellcasters, those who have a range of 2, and then of course 2 archers who have a range of 2 or 3. That's typically my composition. I might change it up depending on the battle, but that's pretty standard. And then as far as how to optimize your force, this is what I look at. So the map. Does the map or the force members going onto the map, can they utilize 30% land effect squares effectively without getting a terrain penalty? You know, forests and hills are great for their land effect bonuses, but unless you're someone like Slade or Kiwi, promoted of course, they're not going to be able to move very well. And then, of course, going back to Kiwi, floating is better than flying because you have no restrictions on terrain, but you get that 30% land effect bonus. And then, those who fall behind, they get left behind. Yeah, you've got to have good movement and good enough agility to be able to attack monsters and get kills. And then any synergy. There's not a lot in Shining Force 2 like there was with Shining Force 1, but there is a little bit, and we'll talk about that if I remember. Alright, so first up is, of course, our main character, Bowie. And he is a native of Grand Seal, and born and raised, I believe. And he is the main force. He would be even if he didn't have to be. And he is always relevant. He always has a good enough attack that he can get in there and get some or be part of the front line. And he always has a decent attack. And he doesn't ever have to really hang back to to shy away from the battle. Not nearly as much as you do in Shining Force 1. He's not always he's not always targeted or what's his name? Max. He's not always targeted by the enemies. He has a higher chance, I think, of getting attacked by the enemies, but it's not always him. And he has a good movement of 6. His terrain penalties aren't bad, and so his mobility is good. His agility also is not bad. And then when he does get promoted, he of course gets that bolt spell. And sadly, if he wants to be useful with that bolt spell, he needs to use all 3 bright honeys on him. And I typically will use RNG manipulation to make sure that I get the maximum of 12 magic points from those bright honeys, and that's not usually difficult to do, but it is something that if you want to be able to really cast bolt at all, other than like maybe bolt one once, you do need all the bright honeys. And post promotion, he becomes a little tank-like, and he can take a hit pretty well. I Depending on how his pre-promotion RNG goes, he can have fairly high HP. I've had him with I think 50, I think over 60. I want to say 60 or more HP when I promoted him at level 28, which is fantastic. That is a very good, but anywhere between 50 and 60 HP at promotion, and then his defense, of course, has that tendency or has the chance to get a +3 every level, or it's not common, but he can still get it. So he either gets a +2 or sometimes +3 if you get good RNG. Then he gets that white ring, because why would you give the white ring to Vicar, which usually for me is just Freyja, and or maybe in this game it's only Bowie who can equip it. But anyway, who would you give it to besides Bowie, right? And then he does get the best sword, the Force Sword. The Dark Sword is not the best sword, even though it has the highest attack. But of course, none of the curse weapons are really good. They're all just they're all just there. Um, yeah, the Force Sword is very good, even though it doesn't have a magical ability like it used to when it was known as the Chaos Breaker, right? It doesn't have the ability to cast Freeze 3 like it used to in Shining Force 1. And so yeah, he's a very solid character, and I really appreciate that he doesn't always get targeted, because you can throw him into the fray, make sure that as long as you're not playing poorly with him, then he can always stay in there. Next up, we have Sarah, the Super Monk. Now, I think the only time I promoted her to a Vicar was when I played through on the first time, when I didn't really know what I was doing, getting introduced to the game, and I've not seen her ever really rated highly or well on tier lists that I've seen of Shining Force 2 playthroughs. And I wonder if that's because players don't commonly do what I do and heal every single turn. So when I played this kind of side by side with my friend who introduced me to Shining Force 1, and when we found out that Sarah and all healers could cast healing spells and get experience without needing to heal hit points, we abused that the minute we found that. We found that out. And of course, then Sarah starts taking off on levels, And she kind of needs to. Pre-promoted, Sarah needs to be over-leveled. I would say that she should be like if you're not gonna do like I do and level her to level 40, she should be anywhere between 5 to 10 levels ahead of the Force, just so that her HP and MP in particular, because if you're gonna keep her in as a healer, she needs to be ahead in levels because she needs the MP. She's gonna be doing a lot of heal 3 casts. In the late game, she's gonna be doing heal 4 casts a lot. In those last like 5 to 10 battles. But then as a Master Monk, she's much better. She survives much better because she gets better defense increases. She gets better HP increases. And then also, of course, she can serve as an attacker because she gets those knuckles. I mean, even if she doesn't get a Mithril weapon, I think the Iron Knuckles are plus 48 or something like that. And so the knuckle weapons are very formidable, and you get the giant knuckles, which I've put as the best weapon for her, or even the misty knuckles. They're also really good. I do typically give Sarah a running pimento or the running ring. I think I lean more towards the running pimento so she can carry healing items like healing waters, the healing rains, any combinations of those. And so, oh, another thing, yeah, enemies, that bottom bullet, enemies do seem to prefer her as a target, and since we're over leveling her anyway, just continuously throughout the entire game, that we can use that to our advantage, because she becomes, quite overpowered with her defense, and then when she's in the thick of things, right, getting attacked by enemies, it gives her an opportunity to cast slow level 2, and then that makes a lot of battles very easy. I think only it's not until the very end when you're at those last few battles that slow 2 loses its effectiveness and like everything's resisting it. But before then, you can use slow and slow level 2 quite indiscriminately, and it makes cleaning up a group of enemies very quick and easy. So she's a very good utility healer with powerful attack, good defense when she's over leveled. Which is gonna, if it's my playthrough, she's always going to be over leveled, and maybe that's the difference between why I've given her, that she's seriously broken whenever I play her, just because she's so over leveled. And all healers have that tendency, right? Is that it's just a kind of a feature of the game that you can make your healers broken by just continually over leveling them. And I'll comment more on that when we get to Karna. But anyway, yeah, Sarah is seriously broken, and she's usually in, but not always. Sometimes I will substitute her out if I just feel like having another fighter in versus her. But because of the fact that she has that slow level 2 spell, she is usually up, and I don't usually substitute. If I am going to substitute her out, it's not usually until the very end of the game. But it's not usual that I'll do that. So she's typically always in. So moving on to our next character, Chester. He is quite the giddy knight. He's always looks cheerful and happy, he's a good mid-range fighter with spears, and he has good HP. He's usually right up with Bowie. Sometimes he's got more HP, sometimes he's got less. It really just depends on the RNG. He does have those nasty centaur movement penalties. And the kicker is that comes in with Chester on whether or not I'm going to keep him in as part of my main force, or if he kind of moves down to bench strength, kind of rotating in and out, is how his defense and, well, not just defense and attack, but also his defense, attack, and HP. If those RNGs start to cause him to lag a little bit in his stats post promotion, then he's going to become a rotating bench strength character rather than a main force character. And While he can, what you could technically wait for him to get promoted when you get the Pegasus Wing at Pacalon. Not recommended because you have to wait. Um, let's see. Everybody else would have been promoted at Creed's Mansion, and then you have to wait from Creed's Mansion all the way until you get to Pacalon to promote him, and then you would have to kind of grind and baby him a little bit. It would be the same if you did it with Rick as well. But the main thing is because you lose that land effect defense bonus, which in normal it's not as big of a deal. But in super, if you're playing on super, you've got to have those land effect bonuses. If you're gonna have Chester or Rick in, if they're Pegasus Knights, they're gonna be targeted more and they're gonna take more damage. So that is Chester. So next we've got Jaha or Jaha. I don't think anybody knows how to pronounce his name properly. I've even heard it pronounced Yaha. Um, I think it depends on where you come from, and I think that it really doesn't matter. My friend and I, we called him Jaha when we were playing, I think, and so he is a main force character. He can become a bench strength depending on, I guess, circumstances, and it comes down to that second bullet point. It's his HP. If he gets bad HP RNG, which is possible, then it doesn't keep pace well enough, then he'll become a bench strength. But usually, he'll be with us from right at that after that second battle, right at the second battle, I should say, from the second battle all the way till the end of the game. And I will always promote him to be a Baron for the various reasons as follows. So first, the movement. The movement is key. From 5 to 6 movement is a big deal. Terrain penalties. He gets less harsh terrain penalties as a Baron versus a Gladiator. And his agility increases better as a Baron versus a Gladiator, which means he's going to go sooner in the turn versus as a Baron than as a Gladiator. And that's of course important because that means you get to attack sooner. That's all that comes down to. And HP scale is pretty much exactly the same, Baron versus Gladiator. Defense might be a little higher as a Gladiator, but that difference is not going to matter at the end of the game, regardless of your difficulty. It's really not going to matter. Because the end game has so many enemies that are magic centric that that extra defense is going to be a moot point. So then, as far as what axe is better, ground axe or rune axe? Well, I guess it really depends on what you choose to do. If you do choose to make him a gladiator, I would say ground axe to give him that +1 movement. But if he's a baron, rune axe all the way. Best axe in the game, by far. Alrighty, so Kazin, our first mage, Howl's apprentice. Kazin, he's a bench strength caster, and they kind of I understand that they were trying to make casters not overpowered. Like in Shiny Force 1, your caster characters, they just ruled the roost. They really did. And they tried to tone it down a little bit, but I think they toned it down a little bit too much. Now, Kazin has a very specific and unique journey with the Force, right? He starts out with Blaze, and we're super excited about it because he gets Blaze 2 very quickly, much like you do with Tau in Shining Force 1. And so you get excited. This is awesome. Blaze 2 is amazing. Kazin is your most powerful Force member um, for several battles because that Blaze 2 and it stays powerful and relevant for a long time. And then, though, you notice that as he starts to get Blaze 3, and if you decide to make him a wizard and get Blaze 4, you notice that, oh, he's not, his power, the power of his spells, they scale as seems appropriate, I guess you could say. Like the scaling of the scale. Oh man, the scaling of the spells, couldn't get that out, makes sense. However, it wanes because the scaling of the enemy's HP just keeps going up. But Blaze 4, he's got Blaze 4 by level, what, 15 or 16 promoted? And you're still in North Parmesia. And then you go, and then when you get back to Grands and you have all these enemies whose HP is super high, you're barely doing 40% damage to most of the enemies that you fight back on Grandsill. So Kazin, always a sorcerer, just because of the fact that Blaze wanes, plus the opportunity to get multiple enemies in that grid are very uncommon. Getting a golden grid in Shining Force 2 is super uncommon. And honestly, if you're playing on super, you shouldn't have so many enemies up in your face that you can get a golden grid. I mean, if you've got 5 enemies on super that are bearing down on your force and are that close together, then chances are you're in trouble and you're going to lose a few force members. Just because you need to take out those enemy groups quickly in super. So the single enemy opportunities for casting is better for Shining Force 2, which matches a sorcerer much better, and they've got more powerful spells as well, right? And so Kazin, he does become the most powerful offensive spellcaster. Hit like a Neptune 2, Atlas 2, they're awesome spells, but they're so costly, and they're learned late as well. But anyway, if he gets the mystery staff, then it's mitigated a little bit. But then the reason why if he does become bench strength at all, like if he might lose out to probably archers and paladins. He loses out to archers because they have got better range, and they don't need MP to do damage. And he loses out on paladins because paladins have they have the same range, pretty much for everything, but they've got better survivability. So Kazin just loses out on those two fronts a little bit, but he's still a very good character, and you can still he still does very well even at the very end. Alright, so now Slade the Kage, or Slade the Shadow. And so Slade is a wrecking machine. And I think I have yet to meet somebody who is who has had as good of an experience with Slade as I have. I haven't seen a lot of reviews where Slade gets ranked very high. I have seen a couple, but not a lot. Most people's experience with Slade, and perhaps it's because of the way he starts out, is not great. And he does start out quite weak, but you give him a couple of levels, especially if within the first 3 levels he gets that good attack plus 2 RNG, then he's going to start catching up quick and getting ahead in attack quickly. Now granted, pre-promotion he's got low HP, low defense, and he's kind of squishy. However, his attack, when it does start to take off, makes him quite formidable. I see on my first bullet there that I forgot to put only character who can wield knives and swords. Post-promotion, of course. And so, the Gisarm. That Gisarm is, of course, amazing. It is the most powerful sword, really, in the game, as far as its attributes. And it procs, I don't know, I would say 30-40% of the time, so it's pretty dang good. And even if you get Slade a katana or a ninja katana instead, or get him a battle sword, any one of those 3 is still a very good alternative. Slade will still wreck face if he doesn't have the Gisarm. So the Gisarm, yeah, I think, well, I just said that the Forest Sword was the most powerful sword in the game. I think that they're pretty both on par. They're very close in the attack bonus that you get. I guess the Force Sword has more attack, but the Disarm has that ability to just insta kill their opponents. Now, Slade's real power comes after he's promoted. I think everybody would know this. He not only can equip those swords, which are great, but also he's able to cast spells. Katon and Raijin, I think is a more proper pronunciation. They're, Blaze and Bolt, but they're more powerful. They do, it seems like 10 to 15% more damage, maybe more, but they do get a damage bonus that makes them more powerful. And even if you cast Katon, say, on a enemy who naturally resists fire, the enemy does not resist Katon and Raijin. Well, no one resists Bolt, but there's no, if I remember correctly, enemies cannot resist, like their elemental resistance does not apply to Katon and Raijin. So though it makes those spells consistent in their damage. And Slade's mobility and agility are excellent. He gets really high agility, he gets a lot of kills, and he's powerful anyway. So really the only thing you have to watch out for is that he doesn't get too far ahead. Doesn't get out isolated and um, get killed by a couple of flyers or an archer or something. But he has no movement train penalties, and so it's easy for him to just go anywhere he wants, pretty much, and still gets that benefit of the land effect bonus. So very powerful, and he just wrecks face. So there's Slade. Alrighty, Kiwi. Kiwi is the best mascot, and probably the character with the most debate around Kiwi. I have put him as bench strength and main force, but that is only how he ends the game. That is not how he is throughout the game. He is terrible when he joins the force. He has this high defense gimmick with almost 0 HP. He's got, what, 8 or 9 HP? Maybe 7, depending on what the beginning HP RNG gives you. And his defense is crap. It's like 16, I think, which is lower than everybody else. So that's his attack, and he's got good defense, yay. However, if you want him to stay relevant, if you truly want Kiwi to be the best mascot, and you want him to be in your main force or even a bench strength character, you have to invest a lot in him. You really do. He probably needs at least one of the quick chickens, like the one that you find on the boat. I usually give that to him. He needs all the cheerful breads because his HP doesn't increase worth anything. And he does need RNG manipulation and overlevel. Well, not really overleveling because he promotes at 28 just like everybody. But he does need that RNG manipulation to stay relevant. He needs that plus attack by 2 at the minimum. What I try to do is make sure he gets plus 2 attack, and then plus 2 defense most of the time, and then at least plus 1 agility. And that sometimes is hard to get. Sometimes it takes a lot of patience. And I think most players aren't willing to put that amount of time into Kiwi, which is fine. It's a time sink. It really is. However, I must admit I have a soft spot for Kiwi in my heart, and so I always put that time investment in for him when I play. However, Kiwi will get vaporized by in-game magic if he is not used wisely. So he needs to be kept away from Demon Masters and Pyrohydras and the like, because he will die to them quickly. Upon promotion, though, let's talk about when he moves from non-promoted and promotion. The amazing things that happen. First of all, he gets that automatic increased movement from 5 to 7. He gets floating status, and no terrain inhibits him except for the mountain peaks. He can fly over. He can go through lakes. He can fly over, well, like in Pangoat Valley, where you're crossing the bridge. he can fly over that airspace there that's just between the ravine. So Kiwi can go anywhere he wants, and anywhere he needs to go, pretty much. And then he gets that land effect bonus from the float. So anyway, and then you promote him. So you promote him a level 28 like everybody else, and then his stats start to increase consistently. Typically it's HP by 1, attack by 2, defense by 2, agility by 1 or 2, and that remains constant. And it takes a while for him to ramp that up, but by the time he gets around to level 25 is when that return on the investment starts to show, and that's when his monster class really is a fitting class and title for him, because that's when he starts to just rip things up. And where his attack by then is over 100, his defense usually is about over 100, and so for that reason, Kiwi can be very good, except for his HP. He can be very good at the end of the game. In the most recent playthrough that I did when I chronicled the game, Kiwi in was it the second to last battle? I think it was the King Gallon battle, made a clutch enemy kill that either saved another force member's life or saved us, an extra turn or something like that. So Kiwi is a very valuable, if you invest all the time, Kiwi is a very valuable member of the force. However, if I am playing through, I guess you could say a typical playthrough of mine where I'm trying to be efficient, Kiwi will not even be picked up. So it's either one or the other. I either don't even pick Kiwi up, or if I pick him up, it's like, okay, we're going to invest in him and we're going to make him part of the main force. So it's one or the other. There's no middle of the road with Kiwi, at least when I play him. Alrighty, Peter, known as, I think, Ash in the English manual. And when I saw this picture in the manual before I played the game, I thought, this is the goofiest looking Shining Force character that I have ever seen in my life. Surely this is going to be one of the worst characters. And sure enough, I was dead wrong. Yeah, the most powerful attacker in the game, and he always gets that +2 or +3 on level up, always. The speed run strategy is built around him and his power. He gets high HP. He has fire resistance. He doesn't need a priest, but no one cares about that. I mean, that's not a factor at all. It's like, I don't care if you need a priest. That doesn't determine whether or not you're going to be put in the force. And then on promotion, he gets 7 movement up from 6. He does lose the floating status. That's one thing that's kind of sad. When he's a phoenix and not a phoenix, he has floating status when he has that movement of 6. But I mean, his unpromoted state, that kind of is understandable, because he doesn't have those big, glorious phoenix wings that he does when he's promoted. And then when he's promoted, he kills, I should say, he kills most enemies towards the end of the game in one shot. And he just becomes, just a total wrecking machine, a force to be reckoned with. And when he's buffed with that attack spell, whether through the power ring or through Fraja's spell, he just murders everything, especially bosses, though. So Peter is one of the best. So anyway, May, our cheery centaur archer. I remember seeing her in Ribble the first time. I got excited that we were getting an archer, and that she was a centaur archer. Kind of like Lyle from Shining Force 1, but a very different, counterpart as far as how they designed her. But same concept. She gets the highest archer attack typically, of the Force members, at least in my experience. And I've heard her get a lot of hate because of her low defense and HP. But honestly, that is moot. The whole reason why you want an archer in your party on super difficulty is so that you have that extra um, layer or that extra range of 3. That is the whole reason why you have archers in super difficulty. On normal difficulty, okay, I can understand, but it's the same principle. Why would you have archers in your party? It's so that you have extra ranged attacks. It's so that you can rank your troops or your force members appropriately in combat, and your archers, they shouldn't be getting attacked. So if they do, okay, they do. But I've heard her get. I don't think I've ever seen her on an A tier. That would be the equivalent of like my main force for her. And usually she is in the party until the end of the game. Um, and because if once she gets that mithril weapon, whether it's a grand cannon, it could be a hyper cannon. Though those are also really good. But May with the grand cannon, she just wrecks face, and she's got 6 movement, which in most battles is fine because she's got that extra range. So, and sometimes some light RNG manipulation is needed, but as far as like her low defense and HP, to use the level up RNG manipulation, it's kind of a moot point. So anyway, May, yeah, she's typically in my main force or bench strength, but I would say she's the second best archer in the game. All right, Geralt, the truly strong. Yes. Geralt's another character who I've heard not get as much love and as much praise as I would have expected. Um, I think my experience once again is probably maybe different, unique, I don't know. But that's because I believe in using RNG manipulation to keep his attack high. To make sure that you get that +2 attack every level if you can, to keep his attack high, and it makes it worth it to me, because once you promote him and you've kept his attack, um, I think it would be close to Peter's. Peter's attack is usually a little higher, but if you've kept Geralt getting those +2 attack levels just about every level until he gets promoted, then he does extremely well post promotion. And interestingly enough, he seems to be a preferred target by enemies. I don't know if that's just me or if that's a thing, but we can use that to our advantage because he typically has a good defense, and it seems like he has a higher agility in that he dodges not really well, because no one really dodges well in Shining Force 2, but that he dodges more than other characters, I should say. And that's just my experience. So I've had good experience with Geralt being a tank of sorts, even when it's not intentional, because he doesn't always have the highest HP, especially if he gets pre-promotion bad HP improvement pre-promotion. But even if he does, knowing that the enemies seem to target him, I always make sure that I'm keeping him boosted, so he has high agility and defense anyway. So that always works out. And then post promotion as well, he has no movement penalty costs, and probably should be given either one of the running pimentos or the running ring. Just it increases his utility more than almost anybody else's. Like if you give the running ring to him, or even Peter or Kiwi or Slade, anybody who is like a weaponless wrecking machine, or a strong character, then your return on that investment is way higher than somebody who suffers those terrain penalties. But yeah, Geralt, he turns into a wrecking machine if you do put that RNG manipulation investment into him. But I think, like I said, that's probably why my experience is different than others, why I rate him higher, and why I typically see him like in the C tier when I look at tier lists. All right, so Luke, oh Prince of Beto, Luke, the character that many people are excited to get, but then you start playing with him, and he should be utilized nothing more as a support attacker. He really never has the offensive power as any of the previous characters, like even Kiwi, when he starts to really ramp up. Luke just can't keep up. He's a good support attacker, um, and he's good in the battles where flyers have an advantage. Like Pangoat Valley is a good one. I bulleted here the last few battles because of his flying ability, which is true. And if he has that counter sword, as I've put by his profile, then he can be, yeah, a very good character to substitute in. If you really love Luke, he can be very viable for the last few battles. But he needs to be kept away from archers because archers do target your birdmen and pretty much any flyers, but particularly like Luke, or if you decide to put in Screech for whatever reason, archers will target them. But yeah, very, very good a support attacker. And as far as synergy goes, usually if I do have Luke in, I'm going to have him follow up with Peter. Like if I'll have him follow Peter around, and if for whatever reason Peter doesn't kill something in one shot, Luke will be there to finish the job. Or vice versa. Like I'll have Luke hit make the first hit, and then Peter will always finish up. So I usually pair Luke and Peter together so that they can synergistically destroy any one enemy on the battlefield at any given time. Alrighty, Road, Dr. Road of Hassan. So we run into him far before we can actually have him as a force member, and I should have probably put him later because I thought about arranging this in the order that we actually get them as force members, but whatever. So once he joins you as a brass gunner, if I'm playing on super, he never sees the light of day. If it's on normal, then whatever. I might decide that I want to have a brass gun around, but typically I don't. He's got decent defense, and his defense usually gets good increases, +2 or +3. However, he has pretty low HP, and he typically has bad agility, and his attack rate of improvement is dependent mostly on his weapon. He usually gets, not usually, but I say just as much as often as not, his attack doesn't increase on the level up, and so his attack lags. His defense is the best of all the archers, but I mean, you should not have an archer taking or tanking hits. And so while he's nice to try, it's like, okay, if you really want him in the party, put him in the party, but he's not worth it. If he had decent agility, it would probably improve him to probably up to bench strength. But yeah, he falls behind, so he gets left behind. That's all there is to it. Rick the Adventurer. He is a solid bench strength. In rare occasions, I would say that he's a main force centaur. So we probably should have done bench strength / main force. But he's comparable to Chester. He has the best defense of all the centaurs. His HP isn't as high as Chester's usually, but that's not a problem because it's still high enough that he can take a hit if he has to. And he usually has higher agility, which if you give him a quick chicken, he is a great mid-range fighter to either soften or finish enemies. And I really like having Rick in. He always seems to have the right timing in battle. to when his turn shows up. It's like, whose turn is next? Oh, it's Rick's turn. I can go finish off this Pyrohydra, Demon Master, Chaos Warrior that has like 30 hit points left. He's just, I don't know. My experience with him is he's always been a very reliable mid-range fighter, and so when he's in, he is very valuable. And then, of course, Pegasus Knight. I think I mentioned this already. He should not be a Pegasus Knight because he loses um, that land effect bonus, that defense bonus of the land effect. And so, it's kind of funny that he says we centaurs are the main fighters in battle. We're awesome. He kind of portrays that Pacalon centaur pride that you see when you, around mid-game when you hit Pacalon up and everyone's like, Pacalon, we're amazing. But they're having all the struggles that they are. So, alrighty, moving on to Elric of the Western Forest. Alrighty, he is a main force archer, and he is the best archer in the game. I will debate anybody about this, and here is why I consider Elric the best archer in the game. He requires the least amount of RNG level up manipulation to, and that's mostly to just ensure that his attack stays up. Most of the time, his attack will he will get an attack +1 on a level up. When he doesn't, it's not a big deal, but he has the most reliable rate of improvement on his statistics. Most of the time, he's getting +2 HP, +2 agility. I would say probably 7 out of 10 levels he's getting +2 HP and +2 agility. So his HP is the highest of all archers. His agility is the highest of all archers. His attack is while not as high as May, it's very close. It's usually within 5 of hers. And his defense is also usually the best of all archers. Well, actually, no, that's not wrong. That's not right. It's usually lower than Rhodes, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be. It's close to Rhodes. And so his overall statistics are, the most balanced and the best for an archer. Plus, he's got that movement of 6. And then with that Grand Cannon, he just does very well. So, yeah, Elric is... I don't know. I've seen him get... I've never seen him get like an A tier rating. And once again, I wonder if that's because of how my playstyle always includes 1 or 2 archers in my playthrough. Like archers, Shining Force 2 was designed to have tiered ranks of troops. It was designed for you to bring archers. It was designed for you to bring either centaurs or casters. And so to get the most out of your force, I feel you really need to have at least 1 or 2 archers. But anyway, let's move on to Eric the Crusader, who is looking for the Holy Sword. Now, even if you do pick him from Creed's Mansion, I think everybody who makes an informed and intentional pick from Creed's Mansion will not pick Eric. Eric is technically the best centaur, statistically speaking, but are you really going to pick him? No. No one picks Eric, unless you go back after you've made it back to Grand Seal and get all of the other Creed's Mansion pickups that you didn't earlier. And so, if you want a Pegasus Knight, I recommend Eric for that job, for that role. Mostly because if you're gonna pick up Eric, the way I see it is, you might as well over-level him to level 40 with the Prism Flower battle, and you're gonna have to spend some time with him anyway. The way I see it, I don't know. Eric, I dislike how they put him in. They put him in the game and they didn't make him unique enough to really make him stand out. It's like by the time you get Eric, you have Chester and you have Rick. And since Chester and Rick get promoted in my playthroughs at level 28, sometimes 29 if I'm feeling in a grindy mood in that tunnel battle with the rats and the Willards. But anyway, since they've already over leveled, Eric isn't any better than them with his statistics and everything. Um, so I say technically the best centaur, because if you do level him up to level 28 or 29 as well, he gets, I think, the highest HP, and when you do make him a Pegasus Knight, he gets really good HP increases. He gets like plus threes on his HP increases. He'll get plus threes on I think on his defense as well. He usually gets plus two on his defense and agility. So his stat increases are good as a Pegasus Knight. It's just that I don't know that the whole timing of his joining and and just everything about his character is like I don't know. So at best he's best strength if you decide to pick him. That's the end. I'll stop complaining about Eric. Alrighty, Karna, the broken, because that's what she is. She should have her own tier every time anybody ever rates her because she is seriously broken. Easily the most powerful character in the game, even if you don't over level her to the degree that I typically do. She has the best combination of healing spells of any of any of the healers. She gets aura, she gets heal, she gets boost, and yeah, and so she has those three amazing that amazing triple combination of spells. Plus, you can level her unpromoted to level 40, and because of the fact that she has aura, she can stay behind the force. And I did this on my playthrough on Super of when I chronicled this game. I was able to level her up, unpromoted to level 40. She was healing the force. She was she was doing very well. She didn't die one time, and so you don't really have to go far out of your way to promote her at level 40. You just have to have a little bit of patience. You just have to have a little bit of smartness by keeping her away from enemies, and she does just fine. And then, of course, by the time she's level 40, you're probably close to getting to Grand's Island anyway, and then you give her that second Vigor Ball, you make her a Master Monk, give her a pair of iron or brass knuckles, and then you just unleash her on the enemy. And so yeah, and then of course with Aura and Boost 2, she just rakes in experience points, and her level ups just they're just going up and up and up and up and up and up. So yeah, Karna is the most broken character in the game. Alrighty, Randolph, strongest of his kind, as he declares, but really he's not. On a level by level basis, I actually looked at this. I so I leveled Randolph to level 28, same as Jaha, and really their statistics are almost identical. I think Randolph might have a little bit better of a defense. Jaha has HP that's a little bit better, but they're basically the same guy. Randolph is not, and that was very disappointing when I saw that. Um, Randolph's statistics, they do not make him, they do not stand out enough to make him a prominent choice. And so he's my third pick at Creed's Mansion, really. He is better as a gladiator, I feel, because he does get really good defense by the end of the game. And he might have the best defensive power even by the end of the game. However, it requires you to, get good RNG for that. But anyway, yeah, Randolph's like whatever. He's not really super strong. He's good, but you have Jaha, so you don't need Randolph, and that's all there is to it. So anyway, but he's still a viable fighter. He's still good. All right, Tyron, the old pro. Um, so if you pick Tyron, and he's a good pick, you know, if for whatever reason, like if I'm playing on normal and I've got Sarah, and I decide not to pick Karna because maybe I want to just have a more fighting centric playthrough, then I'll pick Tyron. And Tyron, he can also become semi-broken through painstaking efforts. If you want to, you can take him to level 40 as well. Because of the fact that he's a magic caster, you can level him up to level 40, um, and then promote him as a wizard, which I definitely recommend him being a wizard over a sorcerer, because his sorcerer spells, like his Tao and Apollo and Neptune and Atlas, they come later than Kazin's do. And so while he's fine as a sorcerer, he's much better as a wizard, and he is the most powerful wizard spellcaster in the game. Now he also has the potential to get not only freeze level 4, which was I think was is what he's most well known for, is the freeze 4 character. A lot of people have called him like Anrai's replacement from Shining Force 1 or successor. However, he can also get Blaze level 4 and he can also get Bolt 4. The problem is it is kind of difficult to do so because you have to level him way past the soft cap max of 30 to get his to get those max level spells. I think you have to level him to level 40, maybe higher, to get Bolt level 4. I can't remember. But you have to level him past that soft cap of 30, which means what? Which means you have to glean experience off of either King Gallum by not killing him, or Xeon by casting spells at his face and not killing him. And then you might die in the process because if you're in range of Xeon to cast a spell at him, then he's in range to cast a spell at you. So anyway, yeah, he's a really good wizard, and if you've picked him, then usually he'll be a main force character. Alrighty, Janet, Elric's love. She is, if you really like archers, I would put Janet in before Road, just because she has the movement of 6, and because she has better agility, so she goes faster. Her rate of improvement on attack is better, and similar to Elric, just a little bit lower. And so I feel that she's better than Road, but really you don't need her because you have May and Elric. That's what it comes down to. And she's kind of like Hans's successor because she doesn't like battle, but she's not the pansy that Hans is, because even though she's afraid of battle, she'll never run away. Whereas Hans is like, oh, don't hit me. But anyway, we won't go into that. All right, that's Janet. Higgins, Sir Higgins of Pakalon. He is our first character who gets the disappointment rating, and that is primarily because at this point, you've got your force, you've got your main force, and there's really no reason to make any change ups. If you've decided to promote your paladins or your centaurs at level 20, Sir Higgins might be comparable to them. However, he's comparable to them. He's not better than them, which is highly disappointing because of the fact that, you know, he's the leader of the Pakalon army. You'd expect him to be better, at least in one statistic, than Rick and Chester, and maybe Eric if you've chosen him. But he's not. He's worse. And maybe because he's portrayed as an older centaur, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I think that Sir Higgins is actually put in here to give you an increased challenge, as we will see with the next few characters, because he's got worse stats. He's all of his statistics are worse than Chester's and Rick's. Um, and it's even, I think, made worse by the fact that before you intervene and save him, he he turns into an immortal vampire by process of Gesp possessing him. So he becomes immortal, and he recovers. He gains all of his strength back. So you would think he would be at least a little stronger than Chester and Rick. And honestly, from a player's perspective, that would have made sense, like to have Higgins replace them, because you've had Chester and Rick for over half of the game now, and if Higgins would have been a better or stronger character, that would have made way more sense as far as if you want me as a player to play a different character. Well, give me a reason to put a new character in my force. Um, I I am not going to put a character with worse statistics in my party because I want to make the game more challenging for myself. No. Alrighty, next is Taya. I've heard this pronounced Taya, Taya. Um, I have a cousin who spells it the same, and she pronounces it Taya, so that's what we're going with. Alright, she is the next in the disappointment rating group. She gets those powerful sorcerer spells, but they come late. And she never stays relevant. She is the squishiest and slowest character in the game. Not quite as slow as a road, but she is definitely the squishiest. She has low HP, low defense, and if you try to put her in, she just gets eaten alive. That's all there is to it. So her nature spells are cool, if you, for whatever reason, haven't made Kazin or Tyrin a sorcerer. But have you really done that? I mean, if you've got her in, then to me, it's like you're trying to make the game more difficult for you. Same with like putting Higgins in. So that's Daya. Screech, the perhaps biggest disappointment of the game. He has the weakest attack. He has the worst survivability. Not the squishiest, but the worst survivability because he because of the fact that he is targeted more than someone like Taya, especially by archers, right? So he is targeted more frequently than Taya. Not a lot because spellcasters also get targeted, but yeah, he just gets he also gets annihilated if you put him in. Um, and then the fact that you go through this hubbub, not really a lot of hubbub, but he's kind of a secret character, right? He's kind of a hidden character. You have to save him when he's a chick to have him show up later on in Tristan after you've defeated Zalbard. And so when you see him, it's like, oh, you're Screech. You get so excited because that random thing that if it's like it was for me, you found out by accident because you're looking for Mithril, then you are like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. And then he turns out to be the way he is, and it makes you cry inside a little bit. So that's Screech. Alrighty, Freyja, the Unrighteous. And just like all healers, he is broken or has the potential to be broken. However, I will say this. It takes a little bit of pre-planning to set him up for success. First is the goddess staff, well actually before the goddess staff glitch. So when you're in that cave tunnel leading to Devil's Tail, you will get you'll go to a chest that has the brave apple in it. You need to put that brave apple in your caravan. And then when you fight that skeleton who is the boss in the battle at Devil's Tail, you need to, well, you don't need to, but I recommend doing the glitch that gives you the goddess staff in the that throws the goddess staff into the deals section of the weapons vendors. You don't have to, but you can always get the goddess staff with Mithril because you'll probably have 2 or 3 pieces of Mithril that you can just like, oh, I've got some extra. But anyway, So the reason why you keep the Brave Apple is because Freyja, when you get him, he has what? Heal 2 and Detox 2. His first level up, he gets Aura, level 1. Now, that first level up, if you don't use the Brave Apple, it's kind of irritating to do that. And so I always save the Brave Apple for Freyja so that I can get the Aura, the Aura spell immediately. And the reason why I have Freyja in the party is that he gets the attack spell. And his levels go up so quickly with the fact that he has the Aura spell. With with the way I play, healing every turn, he gets the attack spell typically fairly soon. I don't remember what level he gets the attack spell. I wish I had a better memory, or that I had made notes. I probably should have put that in the bullet. But anyway, he gets that attack spell, and he gets the best healing spells repertoire. Or did I say that? Did I say that for Karna too? Ha! I guess, yeah, as a pure healer, he probably has the best healing spells, because he gets heal 4 and Aura 4, and does he get Detox 4? I can't remember. It does if he does get Detox 4, I think he does. So he gets all of those, plus he gets Attack, which of course, as we know, is that's what the power rating does for us until he gets that, and. And basically, the way I use Freyja is it's cast Aura when you need to. Otherwise, you're just casting attack every turn on your attackers, and it makes the battle go quite a bit more quickly. So, and then the Goddess Staff, if you want the Goddess Staff either through the glitch or through Mithril weapons, he gets that Aura 2 spell through the Goddess Staff. But going back to Karna, I guess, real quick, I guess she's got the best spell combinations because she's got Aura and Boost and Heal. What's the other one? Oh, and she gets Blast. That's right. So I would say a balanced spells for Karna because of the Boost and Aura. And I guess defensive spells. Anyway, moving on. But yeah, Freyja, I usually have him in my party because of those things. And he's another character who I usually see not get a lot of love or get a pretty mediocre, rating, or people see him as a very mid-tier or low-tier character. Maybe it's because of how late he comes. Maybe it's because people just see his bad spells and statistics at first when you get him, and yeah, you wouldn't want him. So the Brave Apple, the pre-planning with the Brave Apple, it's just something that I recommend doing because Freyja, he becomes your healer number 2. Typically, my healers are Karna and Freyja as the top 2 healer spots. So anyway, moving on to Jaro, the mercenary, another disappointment. If he didn't get nerfed immediately upon switching sides from the Devil Army to, I guess, our side. I say I guess our side because he's not really fighting for us. He's not fighting for anyone's cause except his own. He just feels bad about fighting for the devils, and he's now, it seems like now he's fighting the devils to clear his conscience. I don't even know what his motive is, but yeah, it's like he's one of those fighters where he talks a big game, he doesn't deliver. His attack is mediocre, his defense is terrible, his HP is like whatever. He's just a mediocre, unremarkable flying paladin, and he comes kind of late in the game, so there's no reason to put him in ever. Like, even as a support attacker, if you're a flying, you only need, you have Luke for your flying support attacker. That's what it comes down to. You don't have you don't have maps that have so many like congestion or choke points that you need a whole bunch of support flying attackers. No, you don't. Like Peter and Luke are the two flyers, plus you got Kiwi as well. Those are the guys that if you want someone that can fly, have those three in. Otherwise, no. Charles stays on the bench. Or you put him in if you want to make things more difficult. Guyan of Ribble. Now he is, you can actually put him in, and he does just fine. I was kind of after getting so many bad characters, you get Guyan, and it kind of surprised me that Guyan was as good as he is. And so if you think, hey, this guy looks pretty cool, he is viable. He's got solid stats. Now he's not really viable on super because his HP and his agility make him do lag behind a bit. He can keep up on normal, but not really on super. Not really. So and while his stats are solid, he'll always be overshadowed by Jaha or Randolph, and also Lemon. Alrighty, so Sheila, the Avenger, she's avenging her fiance, and she's nice to try. She has the potential, of course, to be overpowered because she's a healer and she's got boost. However, she joins way late. She joins way late. She's only level 14. She doesn't add any unique spells of high value that we don't have already. Karna already has boost too. Um, Karna, Freyja, and Sarah already have heal, either level 3 or 4. And Muddle 2 is not reliable enough to justify putting her in to be a debuffer, an enemy debuffer. But if you really, really like the Master Monk class, you can put her in as a glass cannon because those knuckle weapons, they're pretty fantastic. Alrighty, and then Claude the Claude, our golem, who he gets really good attack and defense, but his agility and movement, they just can't keep up. They just cannot keep up with anybody. And so he falls behind, and so he gets left behind. On normal, he can take a hit just fine. Even on super, he doesn't do too bad. He can usually tank at least one hit, unless it's Xeon Guard. But that late game magic just kills him. It just kills him because he doesn't have high HP. So he's fun to try. You can throw the running ring on him, and he's viable, but not someone that I usually put in. And then Zing's the same way. He's a little better than I'd say Claude is. His agility is a little bit better. His HP is definitely better, but he still falls behind. He's got that movement of 4, same as Claude. And I would say don't put him in on super because his low HP will be his downfall. He'll just get zapped by the magic and the high attack by everybody. But otherwise, on normal, he's fun to try. You could consider him as a bench strength force member. Give him the running ring to help him keep up. But yeah, otherwise he's not going to usually be in my playthroughs. Alrighty, Chaz, the son of Howl. He is once again another character. He's the last character that I usually pick up, and I guess if you haven't gotten Tyrin, then he's good to have if you really want somebody with Freeze 4. That's about how I feel about him. But the problem is, if you compare him to Tyrin, even if you have both of them in your party, and let's say you've promoted Tyrin at level 28, like I do for most of my characters, even if you promoted Tyrin at level 24 and haven't done like me, Tyrin, his magic point pool is more efficient because it's high. He has more HP typically, or MP typically. Even though they get the same offensive spells, Blaze Bolt, Freeze, Tyrin's levels are going to be higher until the very end of the game, and I think that the Blaze level 4 and the Bolt level 4, Chaz gets Bolt 4, Freeze 4, and Blaze 4, same as Tyrin, But once again, I think he has to go up to like level 40 or even higher than level 40 to get those last level 4 spells. And so while he gets those really powerful spells, they're quite difficult to get because of how you have to experience grind. So typically he's not useful or not worth putting in the battle. He's just not. And then finally, Sir Lemon, the hero of Grand Seal. Um, he's personally my favorite character. My very, very favorite character. I really, really wish he didn't come so late because, man, when he joins your force, it is such a hype moment, and it's like, oh yeah, we finally get Mr. Lemon. Um, he was our enemy at the beginning of the game, but you know in your heart that he's just all about valor and honor, and he really is a true hero. And so that's just how he is. That's just what kind of a man he is. And so I would say that on normal, I usually if yeah, I'll usually just put him right in the force. And on super though, he starts at level 19, so you've got to be careful with him if you do want to put him in on super. But he gets really good rate of improvement stats on his HP and defense, so he scales up pretty fast. But he won't disappoint you in battle. He will not disappoint you in battle, even though he's not like the powerful Red Baron that we have to fight against in the forest north of Gallum. He will not ever disappoint you. And excuse me. And of course, he is the real hero of the story. I mean, he's the one who ultimately takes Xeon into the what is it? The dark dimension, the evil dimension, whatever it is. He's the one that saves everybody at the end when, you know, Bowie is face down because Xeon zaps him. Same thing with Sir Astral and Peter. Everyone's incapacitated, but Lemon is the one who delivers. Um, and he and faces a tragic end because of it. But anyway, that is Lemon, and that is our force, I believe. So, we say farewell to our days of Shining Force 2 and the many wonderful playthroughs that we've had, and I hope that this character review can resonate with anybody who has played these characters, and if they're, I would love to know other experiences, maybe that I haven't heard before, but these you know, all of the battles, all of the experiences. One thing that I really love about Shining Force 2 is it's not just Bowie's story. It's many characters' story. You know, in Shining Force 1, all of the characters their story gets absorbed into Max's story, but in Shining Force 2, you have you have all these stories which intersect. You know, Bowie is the main character, but then you have Peter, who, you know, typically does all the speaking for Bowie. It's like he's his mouthpiece, you know, and you know, and Peter's own story is like going parallel with Bowie's, and then even your characters like Sir Astral, who um, has history in the Shining series universe beforehand, and King Grandseal and Ellis, and well, not Ellis so much, but even Slade. You know, this is Slade's story. It's his redemption story, and it's Lemon's story, and it's Volcanon and Metula's story. And we have all of these characters whose stories are intersecting and going parallel to each other, and it's guided and driven by Bowie and his story. But it's not just Bowie's story. It's not just about him. Um, and so the remarkable storytelling that is Shining Force 2 really is the giant cherry on top of this game, which makes it, you know, so much of an improved game. You know, one of the many things that makes it an improved game to Shining Force 1. The storytelling and all of the then the game mechanics themselves make this game one of the most memorable that I played growing up, and has entertained me for um, much of my youth. So until our next adventure, um, outside of the Shining series and outside of the Shining universe, we say goodbye to Bowie and Kazin and Slade and Jaha and Sarah and all of our favorite characters and not so favorite characters, and wish them luck with all of their journeys. So until our next time, so long for now.